Hola, SAP developers. Welcome to this session, part of the 12th 2024 integration track. Before we start, I just want to let you know to please feel free to drop us your questions in the chat window. We will end up addressing the questions at the end of the session, but we will keep an eye on it. And if it's something simple to answer, then we might end up answering them. So as you can see, today we have something a bit different. We have, instead of the usual one or two speakers, we actually have a group speaking. So leading this session is Karsten Strothman, who is the lead product manager for the event-driven integrations at SAP. Now, the interesting bit is that he also brought a few friends to this session, right? So that they can all show us the different SAP event sources that there are for SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh. So without any further delay, hola, Karsten and friends, over to you guys.
Thanks. Perfect, Antonio. Let me quickly share my screen, and you should be able to see it now.
Yeah.
Warm welcome from my side as well. Well, Antonio has already mentioned it. Today is different, and frankly, I have never done this in this specific way before. So I would like to start with a quick introductory part, and then, well, my friends, the experts for the different topics, will take over. So Jens Christoph Nolte for REP-based S/4HANA native events, Alex Feil for AIF-based events, Eduard Stelle for Event Hub, so SAP Cloud Application Event Hub, and Martin Schöffler from ASAPIO talking about the event enablement add-on. And in respect to the agenda, I will try to keep it short. I will start with SAP's event-driven ecosystem, and then it's going to be the interesting part. It's very unique. As said, you have the chance to see 4 different technologies for event enabling all kinds of SAP backends and business applications in a single session. So I'm really looking forward to it, and it's going to be interesting for me as well. As for the flow, Jens Christoph will start with the S4 native events, then it's the Event Hub, then ASAPIO, and then AIF. And we'll wrap it up with a quick summary. As Antonio has already indicated, if you have questions, feel free to ask anything. We'll try to cover it in the session. If not, we'll cover it after the session. Good. Let's start with SAP's event-driven ecosystem. This is actually a slide I had created for TechEd, the presentation that just happened. And it shows you our ecosystem, our technical ecosystem in respect to event-driven architecture. And on top of that, it indicates where we're heading. And let me start at the bottom here with Advanced Event Mesh. Advanced Event Mesh is our flagship event broker. It's highly sophisticated, and to really be to say it to the point, it's one of the best brokers, if not the best event broker in the market, and it integrates wonderfully with all kinds of SAP event sources. And you don't only have one broker. You can start with one broker. You can build a full mesh of event brokers and connect those brokers. And this is really what this picture is indicating. You have this network, and the events can flow on a global level even. Let's switch to the right-hand side. There you see SAP Integration Suite. And that's kind of the power couple here. You can use SAP Integration Suite for event mediation and for orchestration of events. So if you want to adjust events, if you potentially want to adjust the topic and if you want to turn a notification event into a data event, you can use Integration Suite services, and there's a direct connectivity, there's a connector to Advanced Event Mesh. Then you see Event Mesh and Integration Suite. This is basically the integrated event broker in SAP Integration Suite. It's for smaller to medium scenarios, geared towards primarily notification events. You can handle data events as well. Still, there are some limits for EMIS, as I call it usually. It's not an official name, but I like it. Yeah, you see this migration and bridging. We're working on building a bridge between Event Mesh and Integration Suite and Advanced Event Mesh so that it can be a node of the mesh. If it works out perfectly, then this is what we're heading for. And on top of that, for customers that would like to start small, there will be migration support towards Advanced Event Mesh, because Advanced Event Mesh is the clear recommendation. It's a flagship broker. And yeah, this is why we're here, to see how to feed Advanced Event Mesh. Let's quickly look at the upper part of this slide, the top part. There you can see third-party cloud applications that you can obviously connect to Advanced Event Mesh via all kinds of protocol. And then in the middle and the right, you do see what we're talking about and what you will see today. You do see SAP Cloud Application Event Hub, which is basically a single point of access to SAP Cloud applications. We're talking about S4 Cloud, we're talking about SuccessFactors. Eduard will go into the details there. And on the top right, you see the on-premise backends. So you see S4HANA and you see ECC. And there you have, in the end, three approaches. You have the ABAP RESTful application programming model that Christoph will talk about. You do have AIF and the ASAPIO add-on for ECC and for older S4HANA systems. And yeah, in the end, you can event enable all of those systems. There are standard events, specifically in S4HANA. So S4HANA provides roughly 600 standard events there. And one important point, obviously, in S4HANA Cloud, you can go for web-based events as well. So it's not only the on-prem side, just to make sure we are completely on the same page here. It's the S4 Cloud side as well. Let's move to the next slide, and that just shows the different event sources again. I will try to, in a high-speed fashion, because I'm sure you're eager to see it, go from left to right. For ECC, there are only custom events. You can use the application interface framework, and you can use the ASAPIO add-on. You can create notification and data events, both inbound and outbound. So ECC, using those approaches, can consume events and they can expose events. And the events are typically in cloud events format. That, by the way, holds true for all of those backends. If you don't know it, cloud events is a format driven forward by a number of big players in the software industry. Ideas that you can exchange events easily. S4HANA and S4HANA Cloud, roughly 600 standard events based on the ABAP RESTful application programming model. Event extensibility. You can build custom events on top using the web-based approach. Again, inbound and outbound. And then let's be specific. Again, as for on-prem, you have AIF and the add-on on top. And then on the right-hand side, and this is something I actually can leave to Eduard later. For now, we had been using the Intelligent Services Center for exposing SuccessFactors events. SuccessFactors is working on a new approach that will work with the SAP Cloud Application Event Hub. So they will come up or will release a new eventing approach. But I will leave the details there to Eduard. And with that said, I think it's time for our first friend here, and that would be Christoph. And Christoph, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Carsten. Right, you almost said everything I was going to say, but yeah, maybe I'll go a little bit deeper here. Okay, so the event enablement on the S4 side, on the ABAP stack side, is available with generally available with 2020. We migrated to the RAP model with 2022. Things got much better then. We have 550, 580 events, I think 445 objects. It's pretty much the same in public cloud and private cloud and on-premise. The events that we currently are delivering, and that is always big topic of discussion are so-called notification events. They have only a small payload. And there are some reasons why we're doing that. It's not just performance, it's also data protection, privacy, security, and all these things. Yes, we are protected. Yes, we have all of that. But in the end, when you look at it, that makes a lot of things easier. But that is a limitation, and we'll see how we overcome that later. So the whole thing is ABAP RAP-based, RESTful ABAP programming model, which is deeply integrated into the programming, into the overall programming model, the virtual data model, right, the field names and so on. If you are not familiar with RAP, get familiar, because as a developer, because RAP is what the applications are built on the ABAP side now, you have to learn it. You have to learn it for extensibility. You have to learn it for clean core. All these words that you might have heard about, or if you haven't, you will, right? Clean core and all these things. It is daunting, it is big, it is huge, it's scary, but you don't have to understand everything, right? You can really start with the corner that you need. And I'm not a super expert on everything RAP, but I know my little corner of events, and mastering that is not that bad. Or it is really doable. An important part of our model is the extensibility. I said we only have notification events. Our answer to so-called data events, the big events that hold the whole object or a lot of data, is that you have to build them yourself. You define what you want to have in the event, which fields and which fields should not be in there maybe. So extensibility is very core to the whole concept. The ABAP stack integrates with the event mesh, and also the advanced event mesh, of course, and the event hub exclusively. We also have something that is maybe not so much the topic here, but I'll mention it anyway. We have something that's called local consumption, so you can consume pretty much the same set of events also locally. It's the same technology. RAP allows local consumption. That is very similar to what, if you know the old times, right, what workflow events could do with the event linkage. That's also possible. So that's not about sending events outside the ABAP stack, but consuming them locally, which is reusing the same content, essentially. I will now do the most difficult thing here. I'll try to share. I said the most important thing is, am I sharing?
For now, you're not sharing, no.
Okay, now I'm sharing.
No.
So what you see here is the Business Accelerator Hub. On the Business Accelerator Hub, we have our content, which is the events, right? Let's look at public cloud. In public cloud, we have the events here. And with the events, let's sort them alphabetically. We can see that we have 146 event objects, and the event objects are essentially business objects, or they are business objects, or sub-object types within the new terminology. And the ever popular sales order is also here, sales order events. Let's look at that. Oh, we see sales order has really a lot of events, not just created and changed and deleted, but delivery status change, approval status change, and even things like item general incompletion status changed, which sounds pretty specific, but I'm sure somebody really needs that. When you look at the documentation, you can see here the payload, right? So you see here for the changed event, there is little payload. There is a little bit of payload, which you can use for filtering, but not enough really to do maybe extensive processing on the consumption side. There's also more documentation on what all the fields are about. Finally, and I'm not sure how I get rid of this up here. Now it is. I very much invite you to participate in this customer influence in the 1175 for public cloud. There are similar things for private cloud, to request additional events if they are needed. We really want to do this demand-driven. So ask for your events, ask for additional content, additional events, additional objects, and additional extensibility. Now let's have a look a little bit at what things look like in the backend. That is relevant. We're looking at the implementation of the sales order changed event for a start. That's relevant because you as a developer, your extensibility would be you also build your own event, and you do this in the same way that SAP is doing that. This is an event binding here for the sales order changed event. Here you can see what the event is eventually called. There's a lot of namespace there, SAP S4VH, sales order V1, sales order change V1. What we can see is it is this event here, this definition is bound to an entity, a BDEF essentially, which would be this, and right. And within the BDEF, I'm not sure where it went. You can, no, this was a view, this was a root view. Here now we have the BDEF. And let's see, where is the event? Here are the events defined. Here we see the changed event. It's so simple to define it. What we see here now is this defines the payload, this abstract entity, the sales order changed. We can now see here, there is, this is the payload. We saw that before on the API hub. So this is a payload definition. And eventually, what you do is you have to then, of course, also implement the event. Wait, here we have the implementation. And eventually, the implementation of the event looks like this. You have a new statement, raise entity event here in the EML of the BDEF. Okay, this is not a tutorial. You can read this all up. There's also a YouTube video on how to create all that. But what you see is it is only a few lines of code that to really implement that. But the now let's have a look at an event, how it's raised and what it looks like a little bit more. So we go to the, I'll just change a sales order so we can see this. I'll do some stupid change here. And we can then, there's a monitor, and the monitor shows us that, no, sorry, we first have to subscribe to the event, right? So these are the activated events. I have not activated the event yet. I will, I'm pressing the wrong button here. Sales order changed event. Come on. So I've now activated the event. I now need to do the change. Again, I'll do another change here. So I've changed the payload. Now let's see if the monitor actually shows this changed. We now see here that the sales order changed event on the bottom here, sales order changed. This is the event. Let's check whether it's really the event. You see it's 1318. This is UTC, which it is now UTC 1318. It's 318. And when we look at the event, and it's giving me a hard time to show you this because I changed my screen resolution. Come on. We can see that this was sales order 666. It was, and we have the rest of the payload. So this is what an event eventually looks like on the consumption side. Another thing that you may have noticed is here is another event, sales order change, but it's got another prefix. It's not an SAP event, it's a JCN event. That's a test event that I did. It's raised at the same time. It's 3/18/57, if you remind that. And that is an event where I used extensibility. And what we can see is that it has a far larger payload, right? It has all these additional fields that are not in the standard event. And I added that, and that is a capability that, of course, you also have. And to understand how that's done, this is the extension that is required. So the extension is actually quite simple, right? You have a managed event, and you have a different parameter, and this parameter is your own CDS view that contains all the data that you want to have. And here you can see, here I have a CDS view with the same key, sales order, and many additional fields. What I was going to do, but what I will not do in the so that Eduard and the rest can also do the presentation. I was going to add a field here. So if I take out this comment here, activate that, then in monitor, I would see that this additional field also shows up. So this extensibility is also rather simple. Again, it's not a tutorial, so you have to look at it. But when you really look at this, look at the extension, extending the event here, it requires developer tools. It's an ADT thing, but it is quite manageable, actually. So with that message, extensibility is not difficult. It's a core part of the model, and it's very flexible. I'll hand back to Carsten. Don't forget to share. I'll unshare. And
yeah, you should be able to see my screen again. Thanks, Christoph. I think that was really interesting. I enjoyed it even, so I would assume it was the same for the audience. Now it's SAP Cloud Application Event Hub, and it's Eduard. And yeah, Eduard, your turn. Go for it.
Thank you, Carsten. Thanks. Yeah, SAP Cloud Application Event Hub was recently renamed. You might have heard about SAP Event Broker for SAP Cloud Applications. It's the same service, just a new name. Here and there, we might still see Event Broker being still be called Event Broker. So we are in the process of renaming it. It's the same service. The new one is Event Hub. So Event Hub enables EDA across the SAP Intelligent Enterprise Suite in the cloud. So it will become the central EDA access point for the SAP Cloud applications, and it will provide access to all business events in the SAP Enterprise Suite in the cloud. So basically provide access to all SAP business events from S/4HANA Cloud, SuccessFactors, and other SAP Cloud applications. Carsten already mentioned it. SuccessFactors integration with the Event Hub is currently an early adopter care program. I think we are going to share the slides afterwards, and I put in the link to this program. So if you're interested to try it, here's the link. And yeah, the SAP Cloud applications are natively connected with Event Hub, so that you don't need to establish a connection and trust, but just enable the event flows. Yeah, and then the Event Hub is available with all SAP BTP, EA, CPEA, and pay-as-you-go accounts of BTP, which means you can try it out afterwards on your own with S/4HANA and other applications. And Event Hub supports the following three major EDA scenarios, for example. The first one is the customer and partner extension applications built on BTP can use Event Hub for event-based integration with SAP Cloud applications to achieve to receive the events from, for example, from S/4HANA Cloud or SuccessFactors, and react on them, consume these events while adhering to the clean core concept. There is a session later today on this topic with CAP extension applications consuming events via Event Hub. So dial in there to get the details on this one. The second use case is standard pre-built event-based integration between SAP Cloud applications, which SAP provides out of the box, and you just can enable them and use for your SAP Cloud applications. And the third one, that's why we're all here in this session, is the exchange of business events between SAP Cloud applications and SAP Integration Suite, EDA, and mediation offerings like Advanced Event Mesh and Integration Suite, and Cloud Integration. And Event Hub provides a central access point for the business events published by the SAP Cloud application, so you can connect to only to Event Hub to receive the events of these applications. Okay, and with that, I would give a very short demo on the event scenario between S/4HANA Cloud and Cloud Integration, consuming the events, Cloud Integration consuming the events published by S/4HANA Cloud, as the integration with Advanced Event Mesh is not yet available. I put the link on the roadmap, but it's I think should give the impression how this looks like and how to configure it. So give me a second to share my screen.
Yeah, while you do that, I would like to add one more thing to just make that very clear. What this means to have the Event Hub there. Currently, if you receive events from S4 Cloud and from SuccessFactors, you need to connect to two business applications, right? So Advanced Event Mesh, you need to connect to both. Here with the Event Hub, you're going to set up a single connection from Advanced Event Mesh to the Cloud Application Event Hub, and from all your cloud applications, SAP Cloud applications to be specific, your event get exposed via that channel. So it's a lot easier.
Thanks, Carsten. Yeah, and meanwhile, I was able to share my screen. Yesterday I just recorded a very, very super short demo in interest of time, which I want to show you here. It doesn't cover all the aspects. Antonio has a great video on YouTube, a Tech Bite, which I will share in the comments, a link to this video. It's 20 minutes. It shows it thoroughly. Unfortunately, I don't have the time today to do that. Just give a glimpse of this, and then I invite you to watch Antonio's video on the same scenario in much more detail. Okay, so what we see here is the BTP cockpit system landscape. Beforehand, I've created a cloud integration iFlow that is receiving the events from Event Hub, established a trust, and with the iFlow, and I defined an event subscription scenario for Integration Suite to receive events from S/4HANA Cloud by defining integration dependency in the system landscape. And here I've also created a formation of type eventing between SAP cloud systems, to which I assigned a S/4HANA cloud system, E4L, and the Integration Suite system that is going to receive the events from the S/4HANA cloud system, and an event broker application that is managing the event flow, the event subscriptions in this formation. And we see a BTP application, which is basically a CAP application that is also able to receive events in this formation, but it's not subject of this demo here. This is will be shown in the later session today. Here we see the system details of the S4 system, so the namespace, system type, the system ID. Which you're going to see later on as well. We see the details of the Integration Suite system and the Event Broker application. And if we open the Event Broker application, we see here the enabled event subscriptions. right? The one that the CAP application receiving events from S/4HANA, and in the available subscriptions, we see our scenario for the event-based scenario between S/4HANA Cloud and Integration Suite, which is inactive right now. By clicking on it, we see on the right side some more details, the system details again. The event types that are part of this event subscription, business partner change, business partner created, similar popular as the sales order events, I guess. And yeah, it's that simple to activate it. Just switch toggle to enable the event flow. And after a couple of seconds, this scenario is enabled, right? So and, that's basically it. And what we can do next is just test the scenario. So I have an S4 here already opened a business partner, and I save the business partner so that an event is triggered by S4, which is sent to Event Hub, published in Event Hub, and Event Hub is delivering the event to Integration Suite according to the event subscription that we just enabled. Here I'm refreshing the screen or the monitor. Basically, I received the event. Not sure why it's twice here, but probably some coincidence. And we have the event here. The event is the iFlow is defined in a way that it stores the event in the data store, so we can have a look at here. So I'm refreshing here, downloading the event, the payload, which I have here in my notepad. And what we see here is the event when it was published. So I tested it yesterday. We see the system details of the publishing of the source system or the publishing system. So it's an S4 cloud system with the following ID, system ID. We see the event type, business partner changed, right? And in the body, we see the ID of the business partner that has been changed. Right. And this is the standard notification event that we have. So with this event, you could, in cloud integration, for example, fetch additional data from the source system and deliver or call APIs, whatever, right, or forward it to the receiving system. Or the same way it would work also for the derived events that Jens Christoph just teased and introduced. With that, I would hand over to you, Carsten. Thank you very much.
Back to me again. Perfect. So let me quickly share my screen again. And that screen 2. Now you can see my screen again. And well, the next event source here, the next enabler for exposing events from ECC and from S/4HANA is the event enablement add-on, the ASAPIO add-on. And yeah, Martin is in the call to talk about it. Martin, I think it might be a good idea to give him a little bit additional background, potentially a word on ASAPIO there, and yeah, the stage is yours.
Super. Yeah, thank you so much, Carsten. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Devtoberfest session. My name is Martin Schöffler. I'm product manager at ASAPIO, responsible for the ASAPIO integration add-on. So you might wonder, what is ASAPIO doing here? So you might have heard about the SAP event enablement, SAP NetWeaver event enablement add-on, which is available for SAP Event Mesh. And basically, this is based on the ASAPIO framework and the ASAPIO integration add-on, and that's how we all came to that story. ASAPIO is a German consulting company producing that add-on, and it's also used for integrating Fieldglass with ECC, for example, and especially was used to integrate Event Mesh also to older SAP ECC releases. So the ASAPIO add-on, it is an ABAP-based solution that sits right on your SAP system. So it could be SAP ECC. It also runs on S/4HANA. It could also be some other SAP NetWeaver-based solution like an SRM or CRM, where that can also run, but it needs to be ABAP-based. And yeah, in this talk, I want to give you a very brief overview what the add-on does. And what we do have is that because we are on the SAP system, not some server middleware outside of it, we can connect to certain things that are inside an SAP system. So certain mechanics like the business object events or change documents that are created on the through the application layer in an SAP system, they can be utilized to trigger the framework. And the framework then picks it up, and we have a configuration layer where you then define, okay, for this event with these keys and so on, we want to extract additional data. We want to have these data events perhaps, and then extract the data, format it into a JSON payload, and then connect it to the target service. So this could be, if you have the NetWeaver event enablement add-on, it could be the SAP Event Mesh. If you have a direct license from us, it could be other connectors like for the advanced event mesh. And then this payload is then sent there. And as I explained it with the event, this is the real-time single event mode where basically something happens in SAP, we directly send it over to the advanced event mesh, for example. But the tool can also run in a more batch-oriented manner, or for initial loads, for example, to basically just send a lot of events to prime the consumers with some historical data like sales orders of the last 2 years or all your business partners. So this is basically using the same configuration that you do for the real-time single event. You can also utilize it for these kind of initial loads that you typically always need, and that are often done in basically in a second way how to reach the consumers. So using the ASAPIO add-on, there's only one way. Yeah, specifically for the advanced event mesh, it supports dynamic topics for very good routing capabilities inside the advanced event mesh. Will be not the focus of the demo, but just to mention that this can be utilized together with the connector. And with that said, I think we can switch to the demo part, where I want to walk you through using the SAP integration add-on. So I'm just trying to share my screen now. So to give you a short overview, how does it look like when you use the SAP integration add-on? So this is our SAP system, and I want to start with that configuration layer. How do you define what the payload should look like? And I prepared what we call a payload design for the DevTurbo session on business partners. And here you can basically define, okay, from which tables do you want to get additional data? And then you can also define what should the fields be. You can define what are the names that are output in the JSON. That's what the payload names are here. And for example, we could add here for the business partner, we have missed the phone numbers, for example, and we can just add the phone numbers here and add a new table. So you need, of course, here functional knowledge. Where is the data stored inside your SAP system? But it can still be configuration only, basically. So with that, I'm not really satisfied that it is linked to the address table. I rather have it side by side in my payload to the other infos. So I just moved that, and now we got the new table containing the phone numbers here. And of course, if you don't change anything, it will be just called like the table is called in SAP. But we might want to call it something more understandable to outside consumers. And then, of course, we also want to add a field for that, so that we actually have the phone numbers in our output. Probably focusing just on the phone number for now. But you can add any fields here. And if you add a field, you see it's basically the same thing as with a table. It will be added basically with the internal field name, which is not really bad for the phone number, but still not that easy to understand. So we want to change that as well. And now if I save it and I use the remainder of the configuration and change a business partner, you will see that the phone number will be part of that. Yeah, with that, I want to quickly jump to the real configuration. How do you actually configure an event? And you might have seen that from other demos on the NetWeaver Event Enablement add-on, that we have connections. So this means where do we connect to? And we have here an instance of a advanced event mesh endpoint where we connect to. Basically, we have to give the host name and what type of connector we are actually using, and that the data should be all sent in UTF-8 so that it gets converted if needed, for example. And then on the next level, we have the outbound object. So this is basically the event definition. So we define here what should be part of the event, and we have these payload design that we just saw. So this is just the technical names for it. And then typically you would not do much here. Yes, we deliver these standard for data extraction and data formatting, and you can totally utilize them with these payload designs. But as it is, the framework as it exists is already quite a few years old. So there were other use cases, other things where you could change these things in a custom way to change it around. But yeah, typically with the new mode of working, this is not really necessary. So this basically defines what is going to be extracted, how the payload looks like. And then we have to connect it to a trigger. And in this instance, we just connected it to a business object event trigger. So we connected it to the changed event on the business partner business object, which is cryptically called BUS 1006 inside these ECC systems. And this will basically just call our framework with the information from the business object event. So mainly we will take the key out of that. And then we still have to define where should it go. And for the advanced event mesh, as I mentioned early on, it has dynamic topics, which means the topics are a hierarchy. And so there are certain segments in the hierarchy, and we have 6 segments in the hierarchy, 4 that have fixed values like these here. And then we have 2 where the data is taken right from the payload, so right from the object that caused the event. So in this instance, we will output the city and the business partner number into the topic, so that you can, on the advanced event mesh side, you can use that for routing purposes like subscribing to a certain business partner for its events. With all that said and done, we can now change a business partner. So I also prepared one for the demo. So you might have a business partner here that I have to double click it. You might have a business partner, he might have moved or something. So if there happens some change, I don't know, it could have moved. And then if you save, then the business object event is fired. Yeah, complaints about the time zone. Don't know what's wrong in my system, but PST should be a US time zone. And now that the event was fired, we also, because of the configuration, we would assume our event to the advanced event mesh has also been fired. And there is a monitoring framework where you can check what has happened. Just do that real quick. And oops, what did I click? And you can see 343 is where the event happened. We can see that the response from the advanced event mesh was a 200 OK. So it received the message fine and ingested it. And you can, because we had the tracing on, you can also see what was actually sent. And you can see we also have the changed address here. and we also do have the phone number now as part of the payload. So that's a thing you can change quite easily, and similar, you can create new events like that. And just one thing to mention, in case it would have been in error, the framework will, of course, note that and then mark it for later retries so that there can be a job running to retry these failed calls so that we make sure that all events will be communicated successfully in one point. So with that very short demo, I hand back over to Karsten. Any questions you have, please post them in the chat. And yeah, back to Karsten.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Martin. Highly appreciated. And now it's going to be Alex, and he will be talking about application interface framework. And Alex, this is your slides right there.
Yes.
Looks quite packed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Carsten. All right, I'm going to talk about the application interface framework, more specifically the AIF AEM add-on. So the AIF has been around a couple of years already, and many customers know it. It's a well-known framework for monitoring, error monitoring, and reprocessing of messages in an ABAP system for all kinds of technologies. And now with the AIF AEM add-on, we're also able to trigger events from an ABAP system to the AEM. So what you can see in the middle here is basically what the AIF does. So the message comes in and goes through the interface determination. The AIF identifies based on the structure and also on some conditions you can define, which I'm going to show. What interface do I need to trigger? And it will map this raw structure, which is the source structure, to a target structure or sub-data structure in the here. And you can define all kinds of field mappings, conditions, value mappings. You can assign fixed values and do also checks, for example, to filter out values or check any stuff, what is required. In the action, the actual processing happens in the AIF, and that brings me to the add-on content, which is provided by the subnode, which I will provide in the chat later on. So you can see there below the graph all the objects which are provided by the framework or by the add-on. If you look at the right, the action function module call AEM is provided by SAP to call the AEM destination. And on the left, we have the BOR linkage function module, which covers the triggering of the AIF based on these BOR events, same way or similar way like for the ASAPIO add-on. Additionally to that, we have provided raw structure because the event itself, it's always the same, only the content is different when it comes from the BOR framework. And also a name mapping table to map the values from the ABAP field names to the JSON field names which are required. All right, I'm not going to read all of the steps on the below, so because I'm going to show it in the system, so I'm going to take over the screen right now. If I find that button, share. Yes. Right.
No.
Not yet.
No, it's coming.
Can you see it? Okay.
Now, yeah.
Okay. So first thing we need to do is, of course, and you have seen it with the ASAPIO add-on, you go to transaction SW. Wait a minute, I'm going to move this. SWE2, and there we just have to assign this function module to trigger the AIF. And then the business partner changed event, we have seen it a couple of times now, is linked to the AIF. Right, and of course, the AIF, in the AIF, we have to define an interface for that. Therefore, we have the namespace AEM, and in that namespace, we have interfaces defined. Here I have the business partner interface, And basically what you need to do here is to define the raw structure. Here in that case, it's always the same for BOR events. So the object type, the bus 1006, the object key, which is the business partner number, event created or changed, and the receiver type is what identifies the entry in the SWE2. The target structure is the actual payload, which is pushed to the AEM. So what is important here is that also a controller, it consists of a controller structure, which is also provided by the add-on. So here we have the destination, topic, the URI. So you can either provide the topic or the whole URI, and also the name mapping ID, which brings me to the name mapping table. I have it open here. So like I said before, you have a name mapping ID, and for this ID, which in my case is the name of the interface, the mapping from the ABAP field names to the JSON field names is done. Right, going back to the interface. Oh, that was too fast. Here we have also, so the controller is mandatory, and in the data, this is the actual payload which is sent to the AEM. And here, if I open this up, this is something I have designed in the SE11 by myself. So this is something which has to be provided by the developer. So here we have just some business partner data, like first name, last name, and the address, and some address fields. So it could be any information which is required for the data event. Right. Additionally to that, a few steps need to be covered. I'm not going into detail into every step. For example, we have to define the interface engine to XML because we use the XML engine. The AIF, just for your information, has several engines for several technologies, and also it is possible to define custom engines if a customer has special requirements. But here we use the standard XML engine. Yeah, so I mentioned it before, we also have to define the interface determination step. So this is done here. So basically for this structure, we have to say the object type is relevant for the interface determination, and if it equals 1006, we pass the message to this interface. All right. So next question would be, of course, how do we map this structure? We have seen, so business partner 123 is changed. How do we map it to our target structure? And this is done in the structure mapping of the AIF. Oh, before I get into that, there's also the possibility to define fixed values. So I did that also here to define globally what is the name of our SM59 destination we want to call. So this is the name of the destination I have defined to call the AEM. And if I define it here, I can use it in all of the interfaces I have created. So, oops. Right. The structure mapping. In the structure mapping, we always have to define a source structure and a target structure. So source structure, there's only one. And there are two target structures. In the controller area, I only assigned fixed values because they're all the same for every event we push. So the name mapping ID in my case is Bupa2 because I also have another Bupa interface here. And I have this URI. Of course, it will make sense to have some kind of logic to differentiate between create or change. In that case, I made it simple, just the change. And as I told you, the destination is here referenced, which I have defined before. Right, then we have the data part. Here, of course, and I think it's also described in one of the blogs I'm going to share in the chat afterwards. Any AIF developer could also do everything in customizing, but here I need a couple of fields from one table, so I decided to create a function module. So basically what we can do here, I can show it here. What we can do here is based on a template provided by the AIF, we can create function modules where we can use the source structure and change the target structure as much as we like. So here I just selected data from the CDS UA underscore business partner, which is the basis for the OData API, which is also in the Accelerator Hub. And here I just map it to the target structure. That's all what happens here. And that's basically it, except, of course, I told you there's an action. So in the action, we call the AEM. So we have to define an action. If I open it up, it opens the definition. And here we have the standard AEM function module referenced. So, and in the structure mapping, we have to assign this action. So it's called after the mapping. Right. That's most of it. There are maybe one or two more parts which are described in my blog, so you can check it out afterwards. I will also send it into the chat. Now I'm going to show you how it looks like when we test it. So we have this business partner here in transaction BP, and let's assume he moves from one street to the next house. Maybe I will need to check if my connection is still intact. Of course, it's not. Sorry. Oh, that's a bit. So I'm going to connect to the AEM here. And so I'm going to subscribe to SAP AIF. Okay, and now I'm going to push the button here, save. And we have the event here, the business partner number, first name, last name, and the address data. Of course, we can also monitor it in the AIF. There's a transaction for that, the AIF ERR. Let's select all of the events. You can see there's been a couple of them today, and HTTP return code 200. Here we can see the raw data, the business partner number, what has happened, and the type. And also in the technical mode, we can run the mapping again here, just to see what the result looks like after the mapping. So basically, what goes into the action, which calls the AEM afterwards. So the controller values, and also, of course, the business partner address. That's it so far. Then let's see what questions we have, and I will give the screen back to you, Carsten. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. That was quite nice, and you should be able to see my screen again.
Yeah.
So now comes the most challenging part. I think it was it was really good demos and presentations. The sessions that I like best are the ones where I actually learned something, and I've learned things today, so highly appreciated. Thank you very much. The thing is, we have seen 4 different approaches, right? Which in the end are 3 different approaches for exposing events, plus the event hub that facilitates as a central access point accessing the events from the cloud. So which one do you want to select? Well, you've gotten an impression, and there are a number of factors that you obviously can consider. What kind of backend do you have? If you have an ECC system or an older S4 system, then look at AIF or ASAPIO. If you have an S4 cloud, it's quite straightforward. you can look at the rep-based events. If you have a newer S4 on-prem, 2022, 2023, look at the rep-based approach as well. If you are a customer, and we have lots and lots of customers that already use AIF, that is already using AIF, well, have a look. I mean, you can simply build on the know-how that is already there. Same about the rep-based approach. If you have know-how in the using the ABAP RESTful application programming model, then the hurdle is quite low. If you're looking at the right-hand side, ASAPIO, you've seen the UI. It's very straightforward. It has a great time to event, and the low-code, no-code part is very nice. Then there's a financial dimension, the rep-based standard events you get out of the box. AIF, if used with advanced event mesh, comes for free. ASAPIO, there's a price tag there. So it's a number of things that you can look at. And the good news here is there are options. There are options for ECC. There are options for S4. There are options for SuccessFactors, or at least they will come later this year. So it's quite nice. And yeah, lots of options. One thing that is very important as well, both in respect to AIF and ASAPIO, you can go back to very old backends. I have specifically been working with Martin on a really old backend system, and we managed to event enable that as well. So there are lots of options here, and I think we're very well positioned. We have a very strong event broker, and yeah, a number of options to choose from to enable your backend systems and your cloud applications. Summary, I think I can go through that as well. So there are native standard events in S4. For newer versions, the rep-based model is the way to go. The Event Hub exposes events from SAP Cloud applications as a central access point or in a gateway fashion. Important thing is you connect it once. So less work, more events is where you're heading. ASAPIO and AIF, you create custom events. Important point, currently there are no standard events for ECC there. And here with AIF and ASAPIO, you would be creating custom events, while the rep-based approach provides you with some standard events. Yeah, and I mean, in the end, you can pick the option that you feel most comfortable with, given the boundary conditions. On top of that, you could combine things. I mean, you could always use standard events and use AIF or ASAPIO in combination. And obviously, you can use the event hub as a source for events and mix events from another source in. So it's not either or. I do believe in the long run, we will see lots of event sources. We will see meshes of all kinds of brokers, maybe even third-party brokers in the picture. And yeah, this is what EDA in the end is about. And with that said, thank you very much. I highly appreciate it. Things. Are there questions, Antonio? Do we want to answer questions now?
We run out of time, but we do have some questions which are quite interesting. So I think maybe we will address a few, and then we can wrap things up, if that's okay with you guys.
I think I've wrapped things up already. So
Yeah.
that was already the wrap up, unless one of the colleagues has something to add. Question is whether we want to go into the questions.
Let's answer a few questions, and then we finish, if that's fine.
Okay, good.
Okay, cool. So I'll just ask them in the order that they were asked. So there's one regarding ASAPIO. So can ASAPIO send messages to other platforms like Confluent, Kafka?
So with ASAPIO, there are other connectors available. I think I answered it in the chat. Please visit the website, asapio.com, to see which connectors are available.
Okay. Cool. Thank you very much. And also, there's also the possibility of if that event is being sent to SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh, then you can create a bridge from Advanced Event Mesh to Kafka, right? And send that to a Kafka. Also, that's also a possibility, for example.
Yes.
There's another question from Bruno, which says, is it possible to send events to different message brokers with AIF? Or does it only work with Advanced Event Mesh?
Actually, AIF, as that is included with Advanced Event Mesh, and it only works with Advanced Event Mesh.
There you go. There's another question regarding guidance on using AIF versus ASAPIO. So do we have anything like a guidance on when to use which?
I was trying to give that decision tree earlier. In the end, as said, ASAPIO is paid, AIF is included. That's one thing to keep in mind. AIF is a little bit more coding, while ASAPIO has this low-code, no-code touch. So these would already be two things I would keep in mind. And as said, if customers already have been using AIF, I mean, there are plenty of customers that already have it, then it's obviously a good option to build on that know-how. And other than that, you really need to see what you feel comfortable. Both are good options, with what you feel comfortable with. So both are good options. And in the end, yeah, check on the different parameters and decide.
That pretty much address all the questions that we have on the chat. There was another one, which is a more fundamental question regarding when to use event-based integration instead of the classic way. It was answered by Martin there, so thank you for that, Martin. I don't know if you want to add anything to that question, Carsten. Like you can easily talk an hour just on that.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's a very fundamental question, and I guess you have to search for other talks from Carsten. He does a great job explaining when event-driven can have its benefits over the more classical approach.
Yeah, let me answer it. I can't answer with 2 sentences. If I start, I start. There are a few perspectives on that again as well. Typically, what people look for is real time. You've seen it. Something happens, you immediately get informed. And with Advanced Event Mesh, you can have this network of event brokers, and you get informed of something that happens in the US on the other side of the world in Australia in milliseconds. And you can then react to that. So that's a real-time perspective. There's a decoupling perspective as well that gets often overlooked. Nevertheless, Advanced Event Mesh can buffer up to 6 terabytes of events. So you can use it for peak load scenarios where, I mean, looking at retail, for example, if there's a Black Friday and to really protect your backend system there, you buffer the orders and so on. So there are a number of things that are really beyond what you could do with traditional ways. Same thing about the social media of the enterprise. It's a nice wording. What does it mean? In the end, your ECC system can expose can expose events and kind of like following a hashtag, you can follow a topic, and this allows for completely different communication approaches, not only between the backend system or the backend systems, but as well beyond that. For example, you could inform your suppliers of a delay or if a product becomes available earlier, and you could completely automate that. Hyper automation is another perspective. And then if we step back, thinking about use cases, there are the bread and butter use cases in the end, where you distribute data, where you, in the end, optimize your daily business, your business processes. Then there are nice to have use cases. Typical example is, for example, an elevator. When you enter there, you scan your hotel card and a video is played that is geared towards you, that maybe explains you where you can go in the hotel if you stay there for the first time. So personalized videos. This is nice to have. Then there are the bread and butter scenarios. The things that I really like, the use cases that I really like, are the force majeure use cases. What does that mean? There is a Belgian customer. They are operating their water network. So it's a big utilities company. They operate the water network. And yes, they have leak detection and. All of that's nice. That's bread and butter. What is really cool if they have a backflow, that is really dangerous because it could hurt people could get sick, and they get informed of that backflow, meaning used water flowing back into the fresh water, and they need to immediately react to that. So this force majeure is very, very specific. Same about cars. It's quite nice that you have predictive maintenance. To me, that's bread and butter. Nevertheless, if you have an accident, event-driven architectures, significant change, event can immediately call help for you. So yeah, there are plenty and plenty of use cases there where event-driven architecture is a game changer. And yeah, sorry, I talked a little bit longer again. It's very hard to talk about that. Keep it short.
That's completely fine. I just want to add something to what you mentioned, and I would say that I would recommend having a read on that e-byte. There's an e-byte in SAP Press that Carsten and Martin Bachmann wrote. It talks about event-driven architectures at SAP, and some of these fundamental questions you'll be able to find answers and also scenarios in it. So yeah, have a look at that. And with that, I would say we can close the session. So I just want to thank everyone, right? So thanks, Carsten, Christoph, Edward, Martin, and Alex for sharing your knowledge and expertise in the different parts that are involved in all these different event sources that SAP Integration Suite Advanced Management has. Right. I also want to thank the viewer for joining the live event, or maybe you're watching the recording after. So thank you for making it this far. And there is plenty for everyone to learn during the Oktoberfest. So make sure to check out all the sessions that are part of the event. We actually have another session in 15 minutes where we're going to talk about SAP Cloud Application Event Hub and how to connect it to an SAP Cloud Application Programming Model service application. So yeah, see you there very soon. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Bye
much.
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining the call. I need to jump to the other